News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset, y'all. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. I'm going to play this weather, this meteorologist at, I think it's NBC 6, and he is reporting this. He's one of the, I guess he's a Florida-based meteorologist, and he starts crying. That's how bad Hurricane Milton is and is coming.
It's just an incredible hurricane. It has dropped 50 millibars in 10 hours. I apologize. This is just horrific.
And then you have this tonight from Noah Berggren, who is the nighttime, full-time, meteorologist, weathercaster on television at the Fox 35, Fox affiliate. And it says this, quote, at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, "This is nothing short of astronomical. I am at a loss for words to meteorologically describe the storm's small I in intensity, 897 millibar, I don't know what that means, MB, pressure within 180 miles per hour, max sustained winds and gusts 200 plus miles per hour. This is now the fourth strongest hurricane ever recorded by pressure on this side of the world. The eye is, all caps, tiny at nearly 3.8 miles wide. This hurricane is nearing the mathematical limit of what Earth's atmosphere over this ocean water can produce." So this literally is about to reach a level of the highest possible level that there's nothing beyond that can be done on this planet, according to scientific data. So this is what he said today. Meantime, we have unmitigated disaster in North Carolina. You have 227 dead over the weekend, but many bodies haven't been recovered amid debris and flooding, says the Daily Mail. The number is woefully inadequate, state and federal officials say. That number, 227, woefully inadequate. Bodies haven't been recovered amid debris and flooding. There's piles of deceased people who have yet to be identified. They're being transported all over the state in hopes of finding open morgue space. According to folks on the ground, fire, medical, law enforcement officials, the Daily Mail reports they're way underreporting the numbers. The morgues are full. They've hauled off a ton of bodies to Greensboro. People are starting to bury them in their yards because they have no place to put them. One person in Nashville told The Spectator, "It's so much worse than they're saying. I think there's a massive cover-up." Last week, DHS Secretary Mayorkas said FEMA ran out of money after it handed out more than $1 billion to $1 billion taxpayer dollars to give housing assistance to illegal migrants. Speaking of that, we have this. Illegal immigrants lodging in New York City hotels with daily turn-down service, 3 meals a day, health insurance, debit cards, etc. U.S. citizens devastated by Hurricane Helene, a $750 check. And by the way, they're depositing it actually in the bank. So you got to go to your ATM, but I don't know if there is one anymore. We have FEMA abandoning a devastated North Carolina town, according to the Daily News today, because it can't drive around a road closed sign. A road closed sign. Nobody's been bringing in supplies except civilians, the resident says. Bat Cave, North Carolina, totally destroyed by Hurricane Helene. Residents fending for themselves after FEMA told them a road closed sign is an insurmountable obstacle for the agency to navigate. FEMA called me, told me they wanted to inspect my house. They called me back to say they couldn't drive around the road closed sign. They weren't allowed. They were not allowed. You can drive by it for sure. It's not that bad. You just have to drive around the road closed sign. I mean, I explained that to them. They said they couldn't, recounting her maddening exchange with them. They banded together, the residents of Bat Cave, opening roads, started cleaning up, recovery all on their own. No FEMA. Sick and elderly people of Bat Cave airlifted to safety a week ago. They left behind virtually no sign of government agencies, save a handful of Louisiana state troopers keeping an eye on everything. They haven't done much of anything other than do that, they say. So, my gosh. Private helicopter pilots banding together to help hundreds of hurricane victims. 100 volunteer helicopter pilots flying around 400 relief missions a day over North Carolina in the wake of Hurricane Helene. 90 helicopters registered to help out Operation Hello, they're calling it. And we have what looks to be a failure of the Biden-Kamala Harris administration, how many people feel that way, I want to ask you, how well do you think Kamala and Biden have handled the Hurricane Helene disaster? Maybe you think, Chris, it's hard for anybody. How confident are you in Biden-Harris handling this new hurricane, Milton, that may hit the top level that a hurricane can hit on this planet? How could this second hurricane be a death blow? Do you think it could? I should say, not how, but could this second hurricane be a death blow to Kamala's campaign? Not because it happened, but because how they're responding. By going on sex podcasts and other things like that. And so I think it could be a death blow to the campaign based on their response to the first one. I could be wrong. And then lastly, are you okay with Americans getting $750 while in a crisis like that, while illegals get a lot more? They get I think they get $2,000 in cash on a debit card. They get a 3-star or 4-star hotel with 3 meals a day. There's an interview with a guy in New York asking them on my Twitter feed as well. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. I do think this is going to affect them. I don't see a good connection here. I see with the people. I do see the media completely ignoring the response. And George Bush was railed for not showing up until 4 days afterward. He was railed for sticking his head towards the window, looking down as he flew over Katrina. And yet, Joe Biden didn't show up, I think, till 5 or 6 days afterwards, and didn't deploy the 82nd Airborne, which is 1 hour from the epicenter of the disaster. And they are reportedly the perfect outfit to handle this. And they were standing by and ready an hour away, and they didn't get the word till 5 days after the disaster. So how well do you think Kamala and Biden have handled the hurricane disaster? I think they've handled it very poorly. Joe stayed on the beach in Delaware for 2 days. Kamala was having beef Wellington with A-list celebrities in L.A. To raise $28 million on Sunday while this was going on at the epicenter of disaster. Now it's all trying to get things back together and discovering how bad it is and helping these people literally where you can't get in, supposedly. And I think it's really bad, and I think it is going to hurt them. And are you okay with Americans getting $750 while illegals get a lot more? Of course not. 800-288-WBAP is our number. Chime in right now, 800-288-9227. Look at this. I'm going to be telling you about this in a second. Mayorkas says FEMA has no more disaster funds. But the inspector general who oversees and issues reports about what's true, what's not, and whether disasters, are or not in any agency, they oversee each one oversees each agency. The disaster says no, they're sitting on billions. Uh-oh. We'll get to that in a moment. I'm telling you, though, this hurricane, the new hurricane here is very, very scary. Hurricane Milton. So this is going to be way worse than anything we've had in a long time, maybe worse than anything we have had. We're going to watch that. Also, I want to get into coming up next, the 1-year anniversary of the October 7th terror attack on Israel. J.D. Vance pounces. Wait till you hear how many American Muslims say Hamas did not commit murder and rape on October 7th. Wait till you hear how many of them, American Muslims. And what were the protesters? There were protesters supporting the terrorists today at Columbia University. What were they chanting? It's so bad. They're regaling in the slaughter of Jews a year ago today. What they're saying is regaling in that they're bathing in their blood and saying it was awesome. I'll play that for you coming up next on the Chris Crock Show on News Talk 820 WBAP at 9:17 on WBAP, now on FM at 93.3 and of course 820 AM WBAP. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. 800-288-WBAP is our number. Make that a preset, by the way, at 93.3. 800-288-WBAP is our number. That's 800-288-9227. All right, y'all. We have, in just a minute, I'm going to get to this October 7th, 1 year later, what we have and what these protesters were chanting today, it's at Columbia University. It's horrifying. And I mean, on the 1 year anniversary, it's unbelievable. In the meantime, I wanted to share this as promised. The Alejandro Mayorkas claims that FEMA has run out of money. It has no money for the next disaster. And I believe that includes Hurricane Milton, which is looking to be an insanely powerful hurricane that is supposedly supposed to touch down around Tampa Bay. But the Inspector General report finds that FEMA, and this is from Fox Business today, FEMA has been extending deadlines by up to 16 years on these major incidences, so they're extending the deadline over and over and over again, and they include to have deadlines extended up to 16 years for $7 billion worth of grants, sometimes without any explanation, the IG found. For example, FEMA is still sitting on a $4.5 billion, B as in boy, unused frozen funds from Superstorm Sandy. Remember that? Superstorm Sandy. I used to talk about that all the time like that. Superstorm Sandy happened 12 years ago in 2012. They have not released $4.5 billion unused. It's been frozen for Superstorm Sandy. Do you understand this? That tells me they're holding it to use for their piggy bank. In this case, probably for the illegals. So they've not run out of money, according to the Inspector General. FEMA officials have to justify and explain why they're extending deadlines in writing, but it's unclear what they're saying to justify freezing these funds for so long. Well, they do have the funds. There you go. Today is, of course, the 1 year anniversary of October 7th. And we've talked about that a lot, and I talk about it a lot, where the Hamas terrorists, who the citizens of Gaza have voted in twice to be their governing entity, their government, went and attacked. They broke a ceasefire and they went over to Israel on a surprise attack and slaughtered 1,200 Jews and took about 220 odd hostages. They have about 90 some hostages right now. About 60 something, I think it was. Between 60 and 90 are reportedly to be alive still, believed to be alive by the Israelis and Americans. On the 1 year anniversary, the activists, Jew-hating protesters at Columbia University went out and chanted this. And if you don't understand what they're saying, I'll tell you what they said. Okay, so resistance is glorious. In other words, this terror attack 1 year ago that went in, raped women, raped men, raped babies, put a Jewish baby in an oven in his house, burned him alive, cut a Jewish woman's breast off while she's alive in front of her husband, and gouged her husband's eyes out in front of her, in front of their children, their two little kids watching, and slaughtered so many Jews, 1,200, and then took back those 230 odd hostages, is glorious. That's resistance, and it's glorious. These are not pro-Gaza people or pro-Palestine. These are terrorist supporters. Resistance is glorious, is what they were chanted. And they were carrying a banner. Some of them were carrying banners saying, "We will honor all our martyrs," all the terrorists that killed and raped those Jews. And then comes in a poll today that more than a third of American Muslims say Hamas did not commit murder and rape on October 7th. More than a third. Almost 4 in 10 American Muslims believe Hamas did not commit murder and rape on October 7th. This is a brand new poll. 59% of Muslims say the attack was carried out to forward the Palestinian cause. So raping and murdering Jews, burning them alive, gang raping them, mutilating their bodies and their private parts, is carries out forwards the Palestinian cause. This was done by JL Partners for the Conservative Heritage Foundation. I want to tell you this: 72% of all of Gazans surveyed said they support Hamas after they slaughtered and raped those Jews, and while they, of course, are raping them in captivity. According to the UN, they're raping them in captivity, the women and even the men. So this is who lives among us, and this is who lives in Gaza, for example. Now, two different people, but I don't want one person coming here from Gaza ever as a refugee. I do not want one of them here. Who do you trust? Here's my question. Who do you trust more to protect Israel and bring back peace to the Middle East right now, with Israel at war with Hezbollah to the north, Israel at war with Hamas to its west, and being attacked by Iran from the east, and its proxies in Syria and Iraq, and its proxies in Yemen? Who do you trust more to protect Israel and bring back peace to the Middle East, Kamala or Trump? I'm going to play audio of the 60 Minutes interview that aired tonight, the first real interview that held her feet to the fire, and it's bad. She's got a lot of bad answers in this and a lot of lack of answers and dodging them, with this reporter who would ask her 2 or 3 times over and over again the same question, and she still kept dodging it. I'll play it coming up next. His question, the interviewers, Bill Whitaker from 60 Minutes, asking her about saying that, Bibi Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, he's not listening to you, is he? He's ignoring you and Joe Biden, isn't he? And then you hear her answer. It's very telling. So I'm going to get into that coming up next. Tell you what J.D. Vance said when he gave a full-throated support speech today for Israel. Had choice words for Biden-Harris on October 7th. And the question is, who do you trust more to protect Israel and bring back peace to the Middle East, Kamala or Trump? 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. You get to hear that question for 60 Minutes tonight on, he's not listening to you, is he? Israel Prime Minister, he ain't listening to you, regardless of what you're saying, are you? Is he? No. You'll hear about that in a sec. On the Chris Crock Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, and now on FM at 93.3 at 9:33. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. J.D. Vance, I want to play first the 60 Minutes cut. Chime in right now. Lines wide open. Question I'm asking you is, who do you trust more to protect Israel and bring back peace to the Middle East, Kamala or Trump? 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Here she is on 60 Minutes tonight. Bibi is blowing you off, isn't he? The Prime Minister of Israel, he's blowing you off, isn't he? He's not listening to you and Joe. Stop it, ceasefire, stop doing this, don't do that, don't go after the nuclear program.
It seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
Okay, what needs to happen in the region? What? He's not listening to you. Well, yeah, but we did this and this happened, and it's really from us, but you don't hear about it, I guess is what you're saying. I don't know. He's not listening to her, and it's been a resounding success by blowing off Joe and Kamala. They didn't listen to them when they said, stop, do a ceasefire with Lebanon, with Hezbollah, which has been at war with them since the day of October 7th, getting back into war with them the day of October 7th, shooting 8,000, now 9,000 missiles and rockets at them since October 7th attack. And all the response was a ceasefire, telling Israel, no, don't go after Iran's nuclear facilities, which they very well might and should. Meantime, today, J.D. Vance said this in his attack on Kamala and Joe. and his saying what would Trump do when what will Trump do when he's elected in November. I'm going to get a little political here. Vance said it's disgraceful that we have an American president and vice president who haven't done a thing. The vice president Harris, our message is bring them home. Use your authority to help bring them home. We can do it. We just need real leadership. And then he says, I speak for Donald Trump and saying when he is president, America will protect our American Jewish brothers and sisters. We will stop funding anti-American and anti-Jewish radicals. And we are going to bring home American hostages wherever they've been held and whoever is holding them. That's exactly the only message and the right message that folks should be hearing on that. And I want to just play this today. There was a ceremony today for the families and for the massacre 1 year in Israel. And they had a moment of silence. And this is what you heard in the background during the moment of silence, in a moment of prayer and reflection on October 6th at this massive ceremony in Israel today. Listen to this. That is a wailing mother or a wailing wife screaming out of everything she's gone through and is going through and will go through. And it's not going to end as far as the pain and the suffering. So I thought that was real touching to hear and wanted to play that with you. Shifting gears, as Hurricane Milton is going to touch down here by Wednesday at the earliest, possibly hit the highest conditions that any hurricane can hit on planet Earth, according to the Fox meteorologist in Orlando. Literally, the world that we live in, scientifically, there's a certain point where the hurricane cannot go faster or more powerful. It's about to achieve that, he believes. This one is Milton. And then we have these mudslides in North Carolina. There's about 230 dead, but local officials saying that there's a lot more out there that they're going to find in these rivers of mud that came down and are filled with debris and human bodies. They have run out of places to put them in the morgues in North Carolina, and bodies are stacked up in some instances. Others are burying their dead in the backyard. And at this time, we have Kamala Harris going on a show called Call Her Daddy. And she's talking about, the show has it's a sex show. And for example, episode 38 was called Welcome to Slut Camp. And the description of episode 38, Welcome to Slut Camp, on the show that Kamala is on the podcast. For episode 38, quote, the girls are discussing shower sex, panic boners, and slut camp. Yes, you heard that right. Welcome to Slut Camp, where you will learn how to conceal the slut and trick your man into thinking you are wifey material. Everyone deserves a slut phase with no repercussions. They also talk poop fetishes and where they originated. Army bases, ? In parentheses. Embarrassing things B words, as in women, the B word, B words are doing on Instagram. And last but not least, Alex tells a tragic tale involving her a-hole, a penis, and a cheating scandal. That's episode 38. Kamala went on that show. I'm going to play you an excerpt of this. You know, you think about the hurricane and the deaths and the new hurricane coming. And this is what she is doing in her interview. Let's see here we go.
A bunch of these guys up in these state capitals are writing these decisions because they somehow have decided that they're in a better position to tell you what's in your best interest than you are to know what's in your own best interest. It's outrageous.
It's outrageous. I mean, daddy gang, to put it in our TikTok terms. I have seen girls on the street walk up to men and be like, do you know where a tampon goes? Do you know how many tampons we use? Do you even know how, do you know what a X or Y or Z is of a part of our, and they don't know the answer.
I was the first vice president or president to ever in office go to a reproductive health care clinic.
That's what she was talking about today on this sex show. During her interview, my questions for you on this, by the way, is do you feel it was a mistake for Kamala to appear on this podcast? Is it just unpresidential to go on a show like this, in your opinion? She's going on Howard Stern and Stephen Colbert as well this week. She did 60 Minutes. I've been playing you excerpts of that. That's been real bad as far as her ability to answer questions. She keeps asking the same question over and over again, really holding her to the fire, and she doesn't answer it, can't answer it, and won't answer it. Do you feel it was a mistake for Kamala to appear on this sex podcast? And does this make you doubt her judgment to go on a show like this? Was it presidential? Was this presidential in your opinion? 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. That's 800-288-WBAP. Chime in right now. At the same time, 255,000 people still are without power as of right now today, more than a week after the hurricane hit North Carolina in the Southeast. During her interview, Harris praised the podcast for talking about, quote, the things people really care about. Especially now, quote, especially now, this is a moment in the country and in life where people really want to know they're seen and heard, and that they're part of a community, and that they're not out there alone. Meanwhile, the Trump campaign posted a video of the hurricane survivors, of hurricane survivors that are, it's interspersed with audio of the hurricane survivors talking about how bad things are, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I want to play that for you in just a second here. In fact, we'll do it when we come back. I'll play that for you. This brand new Trump PAC. It's not Trump himself, but it's a Trump PAC commercial taking Kamala's interview on the sex show and interspersing Hurricane Helene victims in North Carolina, how they've lost everything, or different things like this, interspersed with her laughing and having fun with this woman on a sex show. Interesting perspective, isn't it? 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Also, coming up next on the Chris Crock Show, the brand new story today in the Dallas Morning News, this unfortunate car buyer from one of the Advocate guys. This unfortunate car buyer made almost every car buying mistake you could make. We're going to talk about what the worst experience you or somebody you know made in buying a used car, or what the worst choice you've seen somebody make, or maybe you made. And you're like, I'll never do that again. I learned from my lesson. All that's coming up next as well on the Chris Crock Show at 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227 on News Talk 820 WBAP, and now on FM at 93.3. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset, y'all. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. There is a great Trump commercial that has, here it is. I would like to share it with you in a second. But it kind of contrasts definitely contrast the hurricane victims with this podcast Kamala's on, a Trump PAC, Super PAC commercial they just dropped on TikTok. It's also now making its rounds on Twitter.
What made you want to do Call Her Daddy today?
Well, I think you and your listeners have really got this.
It says, meanwhile, it's showing all this insane devastation in North Carolina.
We shouldn't have been there. None of us should have been there.
Communicate with people is to be real. And to talk about the things that people really care about. Our show is really about your listeners. And I think especially now, this is a moment in the country and in life where people really want to know they're seen and heard, and that they're part of a community.
Everything's gone. It's all gone.
And so I'm really glad to be with you.
and says she doesn't care. So you see these people and their homes floating away, and roads being ripped out, and people saying it's all gone, and oh my gosh, that's a house, going by. And then she's talking about what people really care about and what people want to hear at the same time. It's a bad optic. Do you feel this was a mistake for Kamala to appear on this sex podcast? Does this make you doubt her judgment? Was this presidential? 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. The other thing is, tonight she's picking a fight with Ron DeSantis about how he's handling the hurricane. You're not going to believe this. I'll get to that in a sec. Brooke in Frisco, WBAP, hello.
Hi.
Hi.
I think that she's going on those shows because that's her audience.
Yeah, I think it is.
People who are going to vote for her.
But here's the thing, though. Those people probably aren't going to vote for Trump, right?
Probably not.
So she's only going in areas, except for 60 Minutes today, she's only going in areas that are friendly to her. And they're already going to vote for her in these spaces. So why is she doing that? Is she trying to do it so she can show she's going out and doing interviews while not being challenged? Is that what you think this is?
Yeah, probably.
I wonder if these average people out there that are on the fence, or like, I'm probably going to vote for Trump even though I hate him because he's better policies and better for the country. If people see this that are like that and they go, this is not good.
I think there's people out there who won't listen to anything that is going on, and my son is one of those. And I get so frustrated with him because he will not listen to anything. He won't look at anything that I try to show him. He's just...
How old is he?
Closed-minded. He's 35.
And he's definitely going to vote for Kamala, and that's why you're trying to show him?
I don't know. He said he tells me he's a Republican, but whenever I try to tell him what's going on, he calls me a conspiracy theorist, and he laughs, basically. And so what I think they're trying to do, I mean, one of my son is voting for Trump, and the other one, I think he's going to vote for Kamala. And, I told him he's voting for a communist and a socialist, but he says he's not a socialist. So you try to talk sense into him and reason with him, and there's people out there, and I'm like that, and I'm very frustrated with him, and we get in arguments over it.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. In my humble experience, my daughter is 18, and she doesn't want to hear much, and so I've actually encouraged her to say, "Hey, Dad, I'm just not. Now's not the time, or I'm not interested, or I'm whatever." I encourage her to do that because I don't want to. I'm not going to win anything over by doing that. I share little things gently, but I don't try to force anything, because if you do, you're going to really lose them.
Yeah. So I think we've agreed not to talk about it. But when I find out about stuff, I just want to share it with him, because he's got a son that's 6 months old now, and I try to impress upon him, if Kamala wins, we're not going to have the America that we have right now. And the other day he said, well, I try to look at the past 30 years. We have Democrats, we have Republicans, and, it all evens out. And I said, you know what, this is a time where more people are concerned than before, because by the year 2030, they have their plans that they want to.
I think if you call her a Marxist or a socialist, then you've lost them the moment you say that. I think you shouldn't call anything to anybody. I think if you're in this situation, I think the way to do it would be, did you hear about this? What do you think about that and stuff? If, more questions, leading questions, but not telling him what to think. I got to roll, but thanks for your call. Okay. Yeah, I think parents, even though he's 35 already, I think parents need to really be gentle on that and not hurt the relationship, and respectful. There's ways to do it, but it's the right thing at the wrong time is the wrong thing. I'll say it again. The right thing at the wrong time is the wrong thing. All right. Coming up next in the Chris Crock Show from the watchdog at Dallas Morning News, this unfortunate car buyer made almost every car buying mistake you can make. I want to talk about that and see what's the worst experience you or somebody or biggest mistake you made buying a used car. where you've learned your lesson in expensive tuition, if you will. That's next on the Chris Crock Show on News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227.